Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be having some spoilers. Like normal, there's always spoilers for these Tuesday videos. Frankly, there's always spoilers in all my videos, but, you know, I don't think a recap video needs the term spoilers put in front of it. It's obvious there's going to be some spoilers when I'm recapping something. But anyway, spoilers for today's video. So, if you don't want spoilers, or even potential spoilers in case I am correct, I recommend clicking off the video and getting caught up with Campaign 3 of Critical Role. I don't think I need to sugarcoat the intro to this video at all. Today's video is very obvious. It is a prediction video of who I think won't make it out of their Campaign 3 potentially ending, fight. So realistically, I'll be covering all three teams. I did make a video on this very recently where I predicted out of Vox Machina and Mighty 9 which one is going to survive, and based on a few things that I said in that video, I have actually changed my opinion since then because it's been 2 months since that video came out, like almost literally to the day of recording this. So it's been 2 months since that video has come out. So a few things have happened. There's been 7 episodes. We've gotten far more intel about what's happening with each of the characters. And this time I'm actually going to be including the Bell's Hells in this. So last time it was just the Vox Machina and the Mighty 9, but this time I'm hitting good old Campaign 3 as well. So we're going to be doing everyone here, or predicting everyone who I believe is going to survive. I'm going to focus less on Vox Machina and Mighty 9 because I did already make a video on it. But again, some things have changed. Some more information has been given. But we also know who's, actually going to be there now. We know of certain characters who won't be there and who is going to be there. So I can be more thorough on who I believe will and won't make it. So I thought that would be fun to do, not to mention a handful of people asked for it in the last video I made. So realistically, I think this is a good idea to do again. So I do think I should clarify what I'm going to do to make my predictions. First of all, I'm going to go over some story-related stuff that I think, if it were to happen story-related wise, it would be, impactful and very, a big moment to happen, which would, might be leaning in that direction for some characters because they'd be more willing to take bigger risks because they're okay with that character dying. That sort of route. And I'm also going to go over statistics as to who has the most deaths in each group. I think I'm going to do that first for each category or for each team. So you're going to go over the amount of deaths, story reasons, and there's actually a third way I kind of want to go about it, which is which team seems to has the most luck when it comes to their dice rolls. So starting with Vox Machina, and I'm going to start with their death totals because it's actually rather interesting. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with Grog. He has 2 deaths, both come in the way of combat. So realistically, Grog dying, it's possible. He's died twice. Percy has also died twice in combat. Vax, who isn't going to be involved in this fight, has died 4 times in total. Only twice in combat, though. Same with Vex. Exact same situation with Vex. She has died 4 times, twice in combat. Keyleth has died a grand total of 1 time, and she killed herself. Y'all know the moment. Pike, she died once as well, but it was pre-stream. So I don't know if we really want to count it as far as her luck in combat. But she did die once pre-stream. And if there is any sort of extenuating circumstances to a death, I will mention it in these listings as we go further. Scanlan has died twice in combat, and I would be remiss to not mention that Lievtel, the potential character for Liam in these Vox Machina fights, has died once as well. So just feel like throwing that out there. Now, as far as storytelling wise, who I think would be the most impactful, back when I made my previous video about this topic, I said it would likely be Keyleth or Scanlan who would have the biggest impact on what I truly think would be storytelling reasons. I've actually changed my mind. I think the biggest one who would have the most impact on story-wise stuff if they were to die would be Vex, because not only is Vex connected to the most characters in everything that's going on, whether it be Vax, Percy, Keyleth, all of her fucking children. She's met the Mighty 9, or she's met the Vox Machina, no, Bell's Hells, Jesus. She's met the Bell's Hells. She's deeply connected to Laudna in that sense because Laudna was her body double. So I do think that if Vex were to die, her death would impact the most people. Yes, Keyleth is also on that same sort of wavelength here, but I just feel like Vex is just slightly deeper rooted into who she would affect in the campaign, especially after seeing all of Percy and Vex's kids. It would really, really hurt after seeing that send-off when they walked through the Sun Tree and all of their children were there, and they're like, okay, we're going to take care of this place while our parents are gone, and then they're going to come back, right? Imagine Percy comes back, but Vex doesn't. That would be brutal in my opinion. So, again, Vex has the highest death count, aside with Vax, in the entirety of Vox Machina. So, my prediction is she's likely to die. Maybe even Trinket might have a higher death count than her, but for some reason, I don't think she's bringing Trinket. She might bring a different bear that is in the family now. Maybe she does bring Trinket, who knows. But I get the feeling that as far as deaths that happen, Vex is the most likely to die. She's died the most, so it just makes sense to me that she will die out of anybody here. Killing Keyleth is impossible, frankly. So I highly doubt Keyleth will die. So as far as story-wise, as far as the dice rolls go, it seems Vex is always likely the one to die. So for the Vox Machina pick, it's Vex. There may be some others, but realistically, I'm going to give one for each of who I think is the most likely. And as far as like dice rolls go, I would say Vox Machina as a group is they're pretty neutral with how like good and bad their combats go. As long as it's not a door, I think Vox Machina is going to be okay as far as dice rolls go. But I feel like Vex, she's squishy enough. She takes a lot of hits. I don't know if she does like the amount of damage she needs to do to sort of keep up with her getting hit. So realistically, she seems like a good target for people to kill pretty easily. She's died the most. Just makes sense to me that she will be the one to die on Vox Machina. I think I should also mention there's one more like story thing that I would give the Vox Machina fight, and that is Serkonos. If Serkonos were to die in the combat against Ozo Kruth, I do think it would be rather interesting to see like how that like makes the Fire Ashari adapt. If he were to die, and we would then see like the passage of the flame, quite literally passing the flame to someone else, where a new leader has to step up in the Fire Ashari, new leadership roles, maybe even Keyleth gets to pick who that is. I could very well see that being like a cool little bit of lore for like Exandria and stuff like that, and for the Ashari. So I would feel remiss in not mentioning that for the Vox Machina section. So then we move on to the Mighty Nine, who as far as death goes, they're pretty consistent, with Caleb having one, Jester having one. Both of those happened the exact same episode, 140. They both died to Lucian. Ford had one, Caduceus had one, killed by Not, which is fucked up. Obviously, we know Mollymock died and never came back. It is now Kingsley or Lucian who came back. So realistically, you could say like Mollymock died like 3 times, because Lucian died, Mollymock died, Lucian died again, and is now Mollymock. So you could say 3, so Mollymock might have the most. Yasha has 0, and Bo has 0. Veth has 2, one in her backstory where she was drowned by goblins, and then one where she was killed by a power word kill trap in the folding halls of Halas. So as far as like in combat goes, only 4 of them have died in combat, with that being Caleb, Jester, Ford, and Caduceus. And, you know, Ford kind of got jumped before he died, so that was kind of bullshit. But this group seems to be far better at handling death. There are 2 massive clerics on this team, so death is very unlikely in my opinion. That being said, I would say like Caleb is probably pretty squishy, but who knows? He seems to be pretty well protected. Somebody made a very good point that the Weave Mind likely isn't just going to be doing like wisdom saving stuff, but also intelligence saving stuff, which has me a little fearful for Yasha. Yasha isn't the greatest with saving throws, period, so realistically, if they do attack her intellect, she might be in some deep shit. Not as deep shit as like Grog would be in, but she would still be in some trouble. So realistically, as far as characters who I think would have like the best chance of dying, none of them have like a great track record of dying and staying dead, unless Kingsley were to be there. That would be the only option as far as I can see. But if I were to have to pick someone who I think is in like the most danger, it's probably still Yasha. Even though she has never died in combat, I do think it is very likely that with the kit that the Weave Mind likely has, she's in deep shit. Imagine like Yasha gets Psychic Lanced. First of all, her turn's taken away. Her life force is taken away, because psychic damage is one of the things that Barbarian like famously doesn't resist. So she would be fucked as is, unless Caleb might have given her resistance to psychic damage, but I don't recall if that was one of the spells he did. So Yasha could be in deep shit. So I'm fearful as far as like the way things have been set up for the combat. Yasha is in the most danger. That being said, storyline wise, who do I think would like have the biggest impact on the story if they were to die? Realistically, Caleb, Bo, Jester or Ford. Jester or Ford, not and. Because here's the thing. As far as Caleb and Bo go, they're the ones who are like furthest connected to the campaign 3 story. They were the ones who met the party first. They've had a couple of interactions with them. Orem and Caleb have been sending messages a handful of times back and forth throughout the campaign. So for me, those two, as far as like campaign 3 is concerned, are like the most heavily impactful. That being said, Ford and Jester, Ford just asked Jester to marry him. So if one of them were to die, that would fucking suck. As far as me being a massive Ford and Jester shipper. So that would be a problem for me, a massive problem. Another one who could like have big story implications is Veth, because obviously she would be leaving behind a husband and a son. So that would absolutely suck if Veth were to die. But as far as, story-wise goes, the first 4 I mentioned are pretty big because Veth is on the way out of adventuring, so that would suck if she were to die. But overall, who knows? She is squishy, Veth, so maybe she'll die. Maybe. But I don't know. There are 2 healers on this group. I feel like death is not going to find the Mighty Nine very well. I do want to mention one more thing before we move on to the Bell's Hells, and that is Frumpkin actually has the most deaths of anybody in C2, and it comes in the way of 4. He has 4 deaths. The most memorable being like one of the early on ones where he gets kicked by a guard in I think it was Zadash. He gets kicked by a guard. So, Frumpkin did not have a good time in campaign 2. He died quite a lot. 4 times. Also, when I was talking about dice luck earlier, this is the group that likely has the best dice luck. I swear to God. And I think the amount of deaths is proof of that, because this is a group of killers, non-stop killers. This is probably the best built group of any campaign, because they are just tacticians with how well they're able to deal with things. The best example, I've used it a million times, is what Ford, single-handedly Ford, basically killed off the entirety of the Tomb Takers. He went in by himself after they got fucked up by the mines, which the Bell's Hells did receive one of those mines, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, Ford alone basically went in and finished off 3 members of the Tomb Takers and was like, all right, I'm gonna fuck with these 2 now. And the 2 strongest were left, but still, absolute madness that this group is as good as they are at making plans and following up on those plans. So something tells me they're going to be okay. We then move on to the Bell's Hells, and we start with Laudna. She has 2 deaths in her repertoire, and that is her backstory gives her 1, obviously, and she was killed by Odahan Thule, some good old stabbage. Then there was Ashen, who exploded when trying to absorb the shard of Raushan, so, that was fun. Resurrected or reversed by the Ring of Temporal Salvation. So, good trade on Ashton's part there to, use that ring. FCG obviously has 1. Very sad. Fern has 1. And Orem has 1. And Chetney has 1. All 3 of them also killed by Odahan Thule. After that, Dorian, Breas, and Imogen all have 0. So, as far as death goes, the people who are most likely, any of the people who have 1 death in combat, which is everybody except Dorian, Breas, and Imogen. That being said, who do I think might be in the most danger with their fight against Ludinus? And whoever the hell Ludinus has, which lots of people are speculating, like there's a million reasons why he might have Simulacrum, he might have clones, he might have a bunch of stuff. There is no reason to suspect that he doesn't have a clone hiding out somewhere that he can just plop his consciousness into later. So realistically, Ludinus is a very dangerous fight here. Who do I think is in the most danger of it? Honestly, any of them. I think most of them are... I would say most of the frontline fighters are in my opinion, the most danger. So Orem, Chetney, Breas, and Ashton, in my opinion, are in the most danger. Ludinus could pick out one of the squishier ones, maybe Laudna or Imogen, and just start throwing at her. I honestly think out of anybody, Fern is okay. Something tells me Fern is okay. If she elects to use a wild shape to give her another health pool, I feel like she'll be fine. But to sort of continue that conversation on dice luck, this is the group that gets fucked the most on dice luck. I swear to God, at least 4 times a combat, Marisha will roll a super consistent spell in Eldritch Blast. I'm currently playing a Warlock character in one of my campaigns. Warlock, like, having the invocations that it has to boost Eldritch Blast should never miss. And I feel like she has at least one of them. And she just misses a lot with it. And her luck is pretty rough. I swear to God, Imogen has some pretty rough, like, damage rolls. Like, she'll have her spells work. Like, people will fail her spells, but then she'll roll shit damage. It's consistent with the spellcasters in this campaign, where they will get a hit with their spell, but it won't do much. It'll do the effects it does, but the damage won't do anything, so that the frontline fighters have to be relied upon on more. And then, I swear to God, the frontline fighters get hit constantly. Like, how many times has Aurum gone down in combat? I feel like Aurum has gone down 1,000,000 times. So realistically, Dice Luck is not in favor of the Bell's Hells. They get royally fucked consistently by their Dice Luck. So if I were to say there's going to be more than one death in some of these fights, it's going to be the Bell's Hells one. And I think that, like, it could be Imogen, Aurum, Laudna, and Chetney. Those are the ones who I think are in the most danger. Chetney maybe not. Like, Chetney's on the lowest level of that because of his werewolf form. He can resist damage, but I don't think it's going to be the damage that he necessarily needs to resist. He's going to be fighting in this fight. So realistically, the frontline fighters in, well, everyone but Ashton. I think Ashton's going to be fine. But Aurum, Chetney, Laudna, and Imogen are the ones that I would say are, like, the likely ones to go down here. So, you know, there might be some issues there. As far as, like, how I think this fight ends, because this is the fight that has, like, the biggest implications, we could see both Imogen or Fern dying if they choose to release Predathos, and then they try to absorb him and, like, become the vessel themselves, and, like, their personalities taken away. I could very well see one of them dying in that sense. So realistically, I can see all of the Bell's Hells dying, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The Bell's Hells, they're kind of fucked. But if I had to pick one, as far as, like, who I think is in the worst position, it's Aurum. I feel like Aurum goes down a lot. He doesn't have any resistances or anything like that. He can maneuver quite well, but I feel like he often chooses to maneuver himself into danger. As far as, like, you know, he's got his literal maneuvers for, like, his combat, where he'll literally swap places with people and put them in danger, or put them out of danger and put himself in danger. So realistically, if I'm going to make a prediction, and I'm going to right this second, I think Aurum is going to be the one who doesn't make it out of the fight with Lunas Deleth. So yeah. As far as story-wise goes, all of them dying would be very impactful, because this is the Campaign 3 group. But if I had to pick one who has the biggest story implication as to that sucks that they didn't make it, it's either one of three people: Aurum, Laudna, or Imogen. Aurum for obvious reasons, because this entire campaign is about him getting out. He doesn't want to use the word revenge, but justice for his family. So if he were to die in the pursuit of that and then rejoin his father and his husband, that's huge. That's a huge story moment. It's emotional, it's brutal, but at the same time, there's some sort of closure to the character. So I do think that death in this final combat would be very fitting for Aurum. As far as Imogen and Laudna go, we don't know what's going to happen to Imogen and Fern at the end of this, but I do think the idea of the two of them wanting to go live in their cottage forever, but one of them not making it there, would be brutal as well. So that's why I'd pick those two. But out of storyline reasons and out of seemingly how combat seems to go for this group, Aurum is my pick for who I think is going to die. Now, of course, there are hundreds of other characters that we could predict who's not going to make it. But realistically, that would be up to just how Matt feels the story would go. Maybe Matt is currently sitting at home right now, rolling out 1,000,000 different dice rolls for 1,000,000 different possibilities for characters dying off, like Allura, Kima, Gilmore, right? All of the other characters we've seen in the campaigns up to this point, like Furai and Prism, and a handful of other characters who are going to be involved in all of this stuff, like Opal, right? Denise. Is Denise going to be involved? I doubt it. But I'm just saying, like, there's a bunch of characters who we do know are, like, related to champion, or, like, are champions of gods in some way. So, like, Archon, right? Where's Archon? Will Zara and Cash join the fight? There's so many different options for characters that it would be just impossible for me to truly talk about all of them. So, a million characters being talked about, kind of outside of the realm of possibility as far as, how that could impact the story, how mechanics would work for them dying. So there's just a million characters who are involved in this. Jamasa Ord is another one. Like, will they die? Right? There's so many, doubtful, but there are so many characters that I can't talk about in this that I would absolutely love to talk about, like how that would affect the story, the world, just stuff like that in general. So realistically, for me, I would love to talk about it, but I'm just going to say all the NPCs and all the guest characters that have shown up over the years, if they were to die, it would be impactful. Just that simple, realistically. And yeah. I just thought I'd throw that out there at the end because I wish I could talk about it, but I would be here for 8 million years if I tried to do that. So, there's a ton of characters who are just in and around. So to be able to do that, not very likely. So there you have it. Those are my picks for who I don't believe will survive their combat encounters for the potential ending for Campaign 3, Aurum, Vex, and Yasha. Those are the 3 who I'm going to give hardcore. I think these ones are going to die. So those are 3. Do I think there's going to be more? Absolutely. I actually do. I think Matt has had a lot of time and prep, and I do believe that with him using like the live shows for like the Mighty Nine specifically, and however many encounters that Ludinus has had with the Bell's Hells, I do think there is actually a solid chance he has figured out fun combat encounters that he will use that will be fair but still deadly. And I do think there is going to be a couple of losses. Are they going to be permanent? Probably not. But I do think the possibility is real. And I do think that Matt will be looking to at least, attempt a Brennan Lee Mulligan where he got like almost a full TPK. Sarah just barely escaped his grasp. But I do think he's going to attempt to at least get some of them. I think we're going to get a total of 5. Across all 3 of the groups, 5 deaths. Permanent ones? Probably not. But I do think that is going to be my overall prediction. But these 3 are the ones that are set in stone for me as who I believe won't make it. So with that being said, I will see you guys on Friday for the recap of episode 113. I believe it's 113. I might be wrong. Of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. And I'll see you guys then. Peace.